Hi, this is Carin Camen, and you are listening and watching to the Hats That I Wear training video series. This is where I go in and I talk about each and every role that is in a project, IT project. We just finished the product owner module, and now we are going to delve into the Scrum Master. These, starting with a product owner series or the product owner module, that is now delving into management of the project. Everything that I have talked to you up to this point, I have actually had touch points of actually working on things inside that role. I have my certified Scrum Master certification, and I also have my certified product owner certification. I got those two, investing in myself, flew out to Chicago. Currently I'm now in New York, but I flew out to Chicago, obtained those two certifications, and the reason being is because the product owner and the Scrum Masters really have to be tight. They have to be tight. And in order for me to understand the Scrum Master responsibility, in order for me to understand the Scrum Masters, how the Scrum Master would be able to support me as a product owner, and if in the future, which I would like to, become a Scrum Master, what I could do to be more supportive of a product owner in order to help save the product owner's neck. Because anytime there's a transition with the team, it really sets the whole team back. So because I've been a product owner, I'm going to talk to you about what I would have liked to have had from my Scrum Master, and I'm going to talk to you about what I would do as a Scrum Master to help a product owner based upon my role as a product owner and not really feeling that support from my Scrum Master. So that's kind of the area I'm going to delve into. I'm going to be respectful. I want you to understand that I have not been a Scrum Master, but that is the perspective that I'm taking this on. All right, so let's go in and let's talk about what a Scrum Master is. All right, a Scrum Master is, if you're wondering what Agile and Scrum fits in this process, here is how it goes. You have Scrum roles. These are the 3 Scrum roles. You have the product owner, the Scrum Master, you have the development team. And the product owner and the Scrum Master have to be like this. They have to be close. Because if they are like this, then the development team has something to build on. If there's problem going on here, the development team is just sitting out there not being able to be productive, not being able to move forward and being able to build this IT project as effectively and efficiently. So it's important that the Scrum Master and the product owner are tight. Best of buds, partners in crime, however you want to call it. Those are the Scrum roles in the Agile process. So here's what I think. Here's what I know based on my experience. The Scrum Master is a servant leader position. Their role is really different than a lot of other roles. Their role is drastically different from a product owner. Yes, the product owner still has to gather input and still needs to be of service to all the different touch points. But in the end, the product owner is a independent decision maker. That when the decision is made, when the decision is approved by management, then everybody else, whether they agree or disagree with it, needs to be supportive of that decision. If they are not, and they proceed to try and circumvent a decision through backbiting, belittling, demeaning, gossiping, going over the product owner's head directly to management to try and convince management that the product owner is wrong, I will tell you right here, right now, there's not a product owner out there that will survive. Because a product owner will only be successful if that product owner has the support of the Scrum Master. And so the Scrum Master is not only a protective of the development team, they're a protector of the project as a whole in making sure that collaboration and harmony comes in. And the Scrum Master and the product owner have to be tight. They have to be tight. And they're not always going to agree, but they always need to be respectful. They always need to be supportive of each other's roles. It's not one person trying to take away another person's role. It's all about working in harmony so that there's no distractions for the team. So things that I would have liked to have had going into a new project, having 3 teams, same Scrum Master, I would have appreciated assistance from the Scrum Master in translating business needs into development requirements. Yes, we have a business analyst who does that. But the challenge is, and in many cases this is what occurs, is you have a product owner, which is an employee, and then the Scrum Master, business analyst, and the rest of the team are contractors. In my opinion, in my experience, that's not the best arrangement. And here's the reason being. Teams that I have seen that have the product owner, the business analyst, and the Scrum Master as employees for the company, they tend to work more harmoniously together, and they are putting the company's interest first. Teams that have the product owner as an employee and everybody else as a contractor, that product owner is odd man out. There's naturally an adversarial us against them. If the product owner ends up saying the truth about what's going on with the team, there's no backup to support that, because the Scrum Master, the business analysts are part of the contractor vendor. And of course, they are going to defend that contractor vendor's reputation at all cost, because that's their boss. That's who they're employed by. So if you are a company and you are setting up a team, I would strongly recommend those 3 positions be maintained as company positions, because you will then have 3 individuals that can discuss and collaborate solely with everything in their mind focusing on the company. They don't have any ulterior motives or any ulterior directives from any other company. They are very company focused. And I have personally not seen where, if they are employee based, those 3 positions, I have not seen that they are not able to work through disagreements or challenges, that they are able to collaborate. They may not always agree, but I've not seen the level of hostility that I personally have incurred and witnessed when I was odd man out. So that, I think, is really important. I think that's really important. Having the business analyst and the Scrum Master who are employee based is absolutely critical and essential if you're bringing in a brand new product owner to the company, to the project. And the reason being is because those two would then be able to help the product owner navigate into learning the company and learning the product, because they've had more years service. So they would be instrumental in the product owner's success or failure. So that would be my recommendation for any company that is listening to this. If you're hiring a product owner and you want that product owner to succeed, you have got to give that product owner support, internal support, or the product owner is not going to succeed. If you, especially if you're bringing in an outside product owner. So that would be my recommendation. Because as a Scrum Master who has been with the company, they're going to understand the business needs. And for a new product owner to a company, they would be able to assist and help in that training process for the product owner. So that is critically one of the first things that I wished I would have incurred. And then we're going to go into the next one. Being able to coach a product owner effectively on backlog management techniques. Now, a product owner can come in and have their own idea of how they want to manage that. But there's going to be, if there's been previous product owners and a new product owner comes in, they're going to have they will have a different style of how to manage the backlog. And that needs to occur in a transition, because the development team may have one certain style that they're used to, and the product owner coming in may review that and see areas of improvement, and the development team may or may not be open to that. So again, Scrum Master and product owner have to be like this. If a Scrum Master is an employee based, going in and talking to the development team, I believe that would be a smoother transition in explaining. I've met with the product owner. We've discussed that she's implemented some new ideas. I think it's going to be beneficial. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of transition with us, but I'm supporting and agreeing with her. I'm supporting and agreeing with her in her decisions, and I think she's got some valid points. So, we are going to preface that with the development team. We are going to make some transitions. I'm going to help her be able to transition it smoothly so it doesn't disrupt your programming. Because we got a system, we got a thing flowing in here, but hey, Agile is all about improving. So guys, we're going to improve, but I'm going to assist her in being able to implement those improvements very strategically. So don't worry, I've got your back. But I got her back too. I think that is what needs to occur. That's what I would do. That's what I would have liked to have had happen. All right, the next one. to assist the PO in bridging the gap between business design and development. Again, I just kind of touched basis on how that could be done between business design and development, talking about modifying the backlog. Oh, I did not talk to you about the backlog. You're probably going, what is this backlog? Okay, so the backlog is a list of what's called user stories. That is all the work that needs to be done in order for the project to be completed. And a lot of times those stories are broken down into features. So for instance, they're like epics and stories. Epics would be the navigation would be an epic. I'm just throwing out some ideas. The navigation would be the epic. A story would be to create the framework for the navigation. That would be one story. Then the next would be to create the links to the specific pages in a navigation. So the first story would be, look, I've got this navigation up here with a bunch of buttons. Yep, that story's complete. Then the next one would be, this, if you click on this one here, it's going to take you to this page. Or it could be when you click on this here, the drop downs are now. And we break down those stories very, very granular that way in order for multiple devs to work on it and in order to have success quickly. So bridging the gap between business design and development, having a employee-based Scrum Master who understands the company, because they've been there, that helps them be able to know past mistakes and past things that they've learned from other teams. If they are a new employee-based Scrum Master, well, then that gives the opportunity for the Scrum Master and the employee and the product owner to learn things together. But then being able to understand and make that. Going in, having the Scrum Master be able to go in and maybe talk more technical terms, if that is required. So those are the things of another thing for the Scrum Master service to PO. Then we have to provide the PO with accurate velocity. And what that is every story carries story points. And the team goes and assigns those points. And the points are very team specific. One team could look at a story and give it a 2. Another team could look at that same story and give it an 8. The story is the same. The work is the same. It's simply how the team points stories. One team may say, if a story is over 5 points, we want it broken down because they want to break down stories more granular in 1s and 2s. And another team may say, you know what, we want stories larger because we can get features cranked out easier, so they may point it higher, and it's there. And the velocity, what the velocity is you have what's called sprint or iterations. And that is a timeline. It could be 2 days, 3 days, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Usually I've not seen anything go beyond that. So the team is going to be able to do, let's say 30 points in 2 weeks. Now that gives a velocity. And with time, you can see a consistency. Are they consistently doing 30 points? Or are they committing to doing 30 points, but they're not getting 30 points done, they're only getting 25? Now we need to know, okay, do we need to break down stories more? Do we need to repoint them? Do we need to take less work? Or are they getting the 30 points and then at the end having extra time, so we're actually bringing in more work. So they committed to 30, but they actually got 45. Now we know on the next sprint that, you know what, we may be able to, instead of committing to 30 points, maybe we need to commit to, 40 points. And that is what's the velocity. And the reason why this is so important to have accurate velocity is because it helps the product owner go to management and be able to let them know we are on task. Our timeline is tight, but we're on task to being able to launch. Or say, it looks like we are going to be able to launch a little bit sooner. Or to say, we are not going to be able to launch. We've got too many distractions. We have more features that have been put on us than what we had originally had projected in our timeline. It's going to take us 6 more months. And in order to get it at the time that they're saying they need to get it to, well, we're going to need X amount more teams, or you're not going to be able to market and sell at the time frame that you're saying you want to. So that is why having a Scrum Master give accurate results is so critical, and which is also why I am again heavily recommending that the product owner, the Scrum Master, and the business analyst all be employee based. Because again, you just have the human factor. You cannot get away from that human factor. And I'm not accusing anyone of not giving accuracy, but I'm saying that when I go and I analyze things, and there are systems that automatically analyze that, and as a product owner, I have to do that analysis as well. It's primarily the Scrum Master's role, but I also have to do that as well. I have found slight discrepancies of what was reported and what I was being shown in management meetings, which affected timeline. Because as a contracting Scrum Master, I think there is a challenge to always make sure that you're presenting the team and you're presenting the contracting vendor in the best light. Whereas with a Scrum Master that is an employee, they're just going to tell it the way it is. And then they're going to work with the team to work out any challenges. That's the Scrum Master roles. And we're going to talk about the Scrum Master, how the Scrum Master serves the development team in a little bit. So that is something that I think is very important. Then the next one is, again, because we have the velocity, the Scrum Master works really close with the development team, very engaging with the development team. So being able to help the PO understand an achievable executional timeline. Who also is on here is also the lead developers. The lead developers, they are basically the leaders of the development team. They have a higher level of understanding of the project and understanding of the code. This is the team, the development team relies heavily on the team leaders, the dev team leaders, because of their expertise. And the Scrum Master is always engaging with the team leaders, so they're always being able to understand the timelines and if there's any specific struggle with the timelines, if there's any specific needs that the development team needs to have. And so being able to rely on having that knowledge and expertise from a Scrum Master, I think is very valuable. I think it's essential for a product owner. And again, I'm going to repeat it, and I will keep repeating it through this one. I think that is more effective when you've got both the Scrum Master and the PO as employee-based. All right, the next one. Service to the dev team. All right, here is probably my biggest challenge with Agile and Scrum. Agile and Scrum, I don't know where it came from. I don't know why it keeps getting promoted. I think it's offensive. But they have this analogy of the chicken and the pig. And how the analogy goes is the chicken goes to the pig and says, let's open up a bacon and egg breakfast shop. And the pig says no, because, you're not, your skin isn't into the game like mine is. And so when they do things like stand up, that's one of the events that a Scrum Master, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Their mentality is only the developers really have the skin in the game. So they are the ones that should be talking about, what they did in the past, yesterday, any challenges, what they did today, and that they are the pigs, because they've got the skin in the game. Everybody else are just chickens, and we're just kind of we don't have as much skin in the game. I 100,000,000,000% disagree with that. Disagree with that totally. I think that is divisive. I don't think that's team building. It gives us an us against them. It gives us a superiority type of thing. And I would love to have that just scraped off of every single book and internet platform, because it is not the best team building analogy. In the stand-up, which is basically no longer than 15 minutes, everybody goes around and talks about what they did yesterday, any problems that they had, and what they're working on. And it's not lengthy, only supposed to be 15 minutes. But let's think about this, because I've insisted that UX design be a part of that. And there was a lot of resistance at first. And here's the reason being. If UX goes in and UX sits there and says, I know you guys are working on this feature. I'm working on this feature. This is what I did yesterday. This is the problem that I occurred. I'm going to need some input from dev to make sure that this design feature that I'm doing is going to not have any system or dev limitations. And so if I could do just a brief 5 minutes with, the solution lead or one of the devs, just to kind of review this, I'd greatly appreciate it, because that's what I'd like to work on today. Wow. This, person that didn't have the skin in the game actually has some skin in the game. Because guess what? They can't move forward unless they are collaborating with dev. Now, wow, what a difference. You have team collaboration now. And now we're able to keep, as a product owner, I'm seeing where dev is, I'm seeing where design is, I'm seeing that design is going to make sure that we have design work so that the business analyst and I can create user stories and can create acceptance criteria. Briefly having the business analyst go in. I've been able to review all the stories that the PO created. I've got all the acceptance criteria in, and those stories are now ready for solution lead review. Wow, now everybody knows, even though the devs are working right here, everybody knows, guess what? We've got work that is coming, and we know that we're going to constantly keep our pipeline because people are working ahead of us. As me, as a PO, being able to just quickly say, you know, met with the management yesterday. We reviewed this particular thing. They are supportive of the direction that we're going, so we're gonna be able to implement that in next sprint. Isn't that wonderful? Everybody on the team now understands that every single person on the team has skin in the game. Every single person on the team is being busy to try and make sure that the dependencies between all the different teams are working. Both the direct development team and the supporting business side team are working now in collaboration because we aren't using divisive language. We aren't using the us against them. We aren't doing the we're up here and you're all down there. And that is what Agile is all about, is team collaboration. So I would be a Scrum Master who would want to ensure that the distractions, okay, we're going to talk about distractions. They can focus without distractions. Having an understanding that everybody is collaborating together is not a distraction. A distraction occurs when dev doesn't know if they've got enough work for them to do on the next sprint. That's a distraction. That creates mindset. That starts putting dev at risk. Is there really enough work for this many individuals on this project? Do I need to start looking somewhere else because they seem to be struggling with finding us enough work? And top developers, I will tell you right now, top developers, they can go like that. They can be plucked like that. So having that collaboration and having that dialogue, I think, is really important. And I think that is the Scrum Master's service to dev. Now, how avoiding distractions would be is if somebody from another department walked in and said, hey, I haven't talked to the product owner yet, but we're really needing this work done. Can your team just kind of slip that in under the slide? Because I really don't want to talk to the product owner because I just need it done like now. So can you do that? Well, that would be a distraction. And what a Scrum Master would need to do is say, no, you got to talk to the product owner because the product owner is in charge of the backlog and you need to coordinate that with her. I would be more than happy to sit with you on that meeting. In fact, I'd be more than happy to schedule that. Would you like that to occur? See, those are the type of distractions. Now we go to, all right, guiding the team and setting reachable goals for the sprint. We talked about the sprint. It's that certain duration of time, 2 days, 3 days, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. The Scrum Master is understanding and constantly looking at the team velocity. So if he's seeing a pattern that they're carrying things over, or she sees the pattern that they're carrying things over, being able to work with the solution leads and help to guide the team on the best practices so that they're actually meeting their commitments. So that's another service that the Scrum Master does to the dev team. And here are the events that the Scrum Master is managing. We talked about daily stand-up. So daily stand-up is, like I said, where they all would stand up 15 minutes and you just talk about what you did, any problems, any type of touch points that you need to touch on with anybody else, you take that offline, and what you're going to work on. It's that accountability to each other. And that's why it's so crucial to have that accountability extend out to design, to business analyst, and to product owner, because it's all we are all accountable for each other. Just a little touch point here. In the industry right now, and I think it's a mistake, design is not put on sprints. Design is not engaged with a product owner and per se and a Scrum Master. I think that's a mistake. I think the company who implements the same thing that's going on with development to the design team, I think that company will skyrocket as far as being able to crank out more substantial improvements and projects, and I think they have a stronger ability to take over market share. And the reason being is because design is being held accountable to the same standard as development, and it now begins to work as a team. Design is always not always usually, it is always the reason why development falls behind. Because if design is not provided to the product owner and the business analyst soon enough, we can't get the stories written and the business requirements put in order to be able to have work for the development team to do. And so therefore, design has to be put in on this Agile Scrum platform. There's my beef. That would be my recommendation for any project, team, company that's listening to this. So the next thing is called sprint planning. What that is the very last time that development has a chance to be able to look over all the stories, ask any questions, modify, make any modifications, make any modifications in regards to the story, the description, the acceptance criteria, all of those. So the Scrum Master leads that. There is, before the sprint planning, there is called backlog grooming. The product owner leads that one. They can alternate that with the business analyst. That's something. But usually the product owner is usually the one, because guess what? Guess who's in charge of the backlog? It is the product owner. And what happens there is the product owner meets with the team, talks about sprints 3-4 ways down, about work that is being done, and talks to the team about it, briefly reviews the story, briefly reviews acceptance criteria. The team has a chance then to ask all the questions that they are going to need in order for them to feel like they're ready to take it and pull it into the sprint. Now the product owner determines which stories are put into the sprint, and that's their job. And the Scrum Master and the solution leads, the devs, they are the ones that determine how those are going to be worked on, which team member is going to be worked on. We don't care how it's going to be worked on. We're just saying it needs to be done in this order. So that is called backlog grooming. After backlog grooming, then that gives this product owner and the business analyst time to fine-tune all those things that development said, and then be able to take it into this last sprint planning. And if it's done well, the sprint planning shouldn't take more than like maybe, I don't know, it should go relatively fast. So now we're going to go and talk about the demo. The demo is where the team is able to present to the stakeholders the work that they did during that sprint. It's also part of accountability. Now, I have had some individuals who are very, very firmly believe that the product owner should present that to the stakeholders. There are Scrum Masters who firmly believe they should present it to the stakeholders. My opinion is Agile is all about development and developing leaders and creating strengths. And who actually did the work? It's the development team. I understand that the majority of developers, they don't really want to talk to the stakeholders. They don't want to be able to go and do that. They're happy with headphones on and in front of the computer screen. But if we are trying to develop each one of those individuals into leaderships where maybe they could be, solution leads or system architects, where they're going to have to be talking to management and have to be talking to stakeholders, let's guide them. Let's guide them. So in my opinion, it really should be broken down so that every dev has an opportunity to lead that and rotate and take turns. And if one dev is very uncomfortable with that, you may have to start out small by just having them talk about one specific little item. And then, the next time, give them a little bit more, give her a little bit more. But being able to go in and it's all about improvement, of caring enough about each and every individual that you're wanting to see them excel. So that is what Sprint Demo. And I apologize you're hearing dogs, but that's what we're getting right now, and I apologize for that. That's all I can do. We've got one more. Then the last one is retrospective. Retrospective is after the demo has been done and you've been able to present it to the stakeholders, and the sprint has closed out. Then the team gets together and talks about the sprint, the good, the bad, the ugly. Find out what went right, what went wrong, and find out what they can improve. Now here is my challenge with retrospective. I have only seen retrospective done before the sprint has actually been closed out, and I think that's wrong. I think that's totally wrong. And the reason being is because retrospective should be the very last event. And if a team has carried stuff over, that needs to be brought up in the retrospective. And retrospective, yes, retrospective can be a celebration, but it can be a very serious event of saying, dang, you know what? We committed to 30 and we had to carry 10 points over. So there's not going to be a real, Yahoo celebration here. I don't think it is beneficial to have retrospective and then take that away from the developers' times to finish out a sprint. I don't think it is beneficial to have a retrospective and then have the developers go back and have time to try and finish out a sprint. Retrospective is, once retrospective starts, that's the sprint is done. And I think it would be one of the events I think would be very beneficial is to pull up the board and say, okay, this is where we're at. The sprint has officially finished because we have started retrospective. Go through accountability, each one, you know, okay, you've got this, but guess what? You have this and this and this. It looks like we're going to carry over, you know, X amount of points. Help us understand what occurred to cause it so that full points couldn't be carried over. And talk about that as a team. Have that self-improvement. It couldn't be carried over because of this. I should have reached out sooner. Or I had problems with this. And I did reach out. Unfortunately, it was an external team and I wasn't able to get the information back. I should have communicated that sooner so that the Scrum Master or the product owner or the, you know, one of the managers could have possibly stepped in. That is what makes retrospective valuable. It can't be just everybody gets, you know, you've got that whole entire dev team in there and, you know, for an hour and we're not walking away with anything productive. Yes, it's important to celebrate. It's absolutely important to celebrate after a sprint is done and to reward for the achievements and talk about this is what went right. All right. Yes, that's great. And those can occur, and they can occur a lot of times when everybody walking in to retrospective, knowing that when we go down the line, they can say, that story's ready to close. And we can together as an entire team say, close out the sprint. Close out the sprint and celebrate. Close out the sprint knowing that we are all going to be having to tell management, which is basically the product owner's going to have to tell management, we had to carry over this much and this is why. And here's how we're going to make it up in the next sprint so that we don't fall behind in being able to release. See, that's the valuable part of retrospective. That's what we need to do on retrospective.